Hi, I'm Keith Wyatt, and I'd like to welcome you to this video. Today we're going to talk about blues, but specifically blues from the standpoint of a rock guitar player. Probably like yourself, I started out playing rock. That's what got me into the guitar, listening to bands like the Stones, Cream, Hendrix, and then later on I got turned on to the blues. I started reading about the guys that influenced Eric Clapton and Hendrix. And I found myself ultimately, instead of going forward and listening to all the new guitar players that came out every year, I was going backwards. And I started listening to B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King, Albert Collins, all the famous names of the blues. And I found that in the process, it wasn't that I lost my rock guitar style. I really felt that I added to it. I built a stronger foundation. And that's what I want to bring to you today. Now, you're looking at this tape because you're interested in the blues. And if you're a rock guitar player, chances are your background is a lot like mine. You learn some scales, you learn some of the typical chord progressions, but when it came to blues, you might have had trouble trying to figure out how blues players phrase. How do they choose the notes that they choose? How do they play over the chords in the way that they play? So that's the subject we're going to crack open today. And you got to think of it, it's like learning a new language, and it takes a while. You have to immerse yourself in it. You have to live in that country for a while, and you have to listen to the records. It doesn't come overnight. So even at the end of this tape, if you learn every lick I show you, you still got a ways to go. But you're going to be well on your way, and the things that I'm going to show you, I think you'll find will hold up over time and give you a good head start into the style. Okay, I'm going to tune you up right now. I'm going to play my high E string for you first. So tune your guitar to this note. Now if you have to, stop the tape, tune up, turn the tape back on again to hear the note, and then I'll play the rest of the strings for you as well. Here's my B string, E string, D, A, and low E. Okay, now when you're tuned up, we'll get started. All right, first thing I'm going to talk to you about is rhythm playing. That's the foundation, of course, of any style of music, is understanding how the rhythm patterns work. Now in blues, as in any other style, you got three considerations. There's melody, harmony, and rhythm, and we'll deal with those to some degree separately. But first thing you got to understand, and I think you already do, is that blues is based on the shuffle. The shuffle is a style of rhythm that's really built off the triplet. If you play a steady beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, you get 3, right? 3 notes within each beat. And what we do in a shuffle is we play the first and the last part of each triplet. So you get triplet, 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 shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. It's like somebody shuffling down the street with a broken leg or something. What I'm going to show you is 4 ways to play rhythm on a medium shuffle in the key of E. Most rock guitar players, when it comes to blues, know one rhythm pattern, and it's kind of limiting. That's why rock guitar players tend to think that playing blues is boring sometimes, because you stand up there playing rhythm and you play your one lick and you run out of ideas, and it is boring. But if you know how to build a rhythm part and how to think of textures when playing rhythm, you can make it not only interesting, but you might find you have more fun playing rhythm sometimes than you do playing lead. So what I'm going to show you right now is 4 ways to approach a medium shuffle in E. Okay, we're going to talk first about a style of rhythm playing that, as I said, most rock guitar players learn right off the bat, but there are a couple of subtleties about playing any type of rhythm in blues that you have to be aware of, and I'm going to show them to you right now. First thing you do, all right, you go down low and you grab that little shape right down there, which is a form of an E chord. All right, so the basic pattern then is bouncing with the left hand, digging in hard with the right hand, take a bite out of it, and accent the downbeats. All right, so I'm going 1 and 2 and 3, a little harder on the downbeats than on the upbeats. Okay, now to make out the full pattern in my left hand, what I'm going to do is add one more note, C sharp on the 5th string at the 4th fret there. All right, now when we get the pattern rolling, Then I'll put in the occasional upstroke to give it an accent. Right, and I apply the pressure with my left hand, and that gives the rhythm a little bit of shape. Makes it feel kind of funky. Now I can go further, start adding in the bass notes. Right? Now ideally I could double the bass line if I know exactly what the bass player is going to play. That's not always the case, especially in blues. Everybody tends to kind of make it up as they go along. But I can get pretty close, right? Now when I switch from E to A, same pattern. And then B, here's the only trick, is I play the B chord, a regular bar chord at the 2nd fret there, and then, all right, now that's the trick, is I have to shift position almost instantly. Play the bar chord, and then come up into the 4th position via my 2nd finger. All right, see my 2nd finger lands at the 5th fret, and then I keep playing the pattern. That's one a lot of guys have trouble with, because making that snap is a tough thing to do to get it clean, but it just takes a little bit of work. All right, tell you what, I'm going to tell the drummer, Roland, to count this thing off. He tends to be a little hyperactive sometimes. We'll see if he does a fill into this thing. That'll give us the count off, and then we're going to play rhythm for 2 times through the 12 bar using that exact style of rhythm playing. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Here's another very common rhythm pattern. Sounds great with this style at about this tempo. And this is one that you'll hear a lot of modern blues players play. And it's been around, actually this style's been around since the late 30s, early 40s. It's based on the boogie-woogie piano style. Now this particular chord I'm going to show you might not be one that you're familiar with. It's a great one. I use this all the time. This is a 13th chord, E13. Right, that sounds kind of funny when you take the bass out of it. Here's E in the bass. That sounds like a jazz chord, but when we put it into the context with the rhythm section, it'll sound real cool. All right, there's our E chord. Now we're going to go to an A chord. Our 4 chord is going to be a 9th chord, but a different shape. That's A dominant 9. Okay, and then for our 5 chord, use exactly the same shape, up 2 frets. Let me show it to you. Okay, we're going to roll the same rhythm pattern, and I'm going to play that rhythm feel and show you how the timing works. Okay, here we go. Here's one you might have heard. This is one that Stevie Ray Vaughan has used. And this style of rhythm playing you can date back to at least Jimmy Reed and Eddie Taylor, who played on a lot of Jimmy Reed records. And it's basically another version of the boogie woogie, but it's a little bit more built up sounding. Okay, Now, I'll play a little bit of it for you by myself and then do it with a rhythm track. It sounds like this. You don't need a band. Right? Now what I'm doing is taking the first two patterns we learned and putting them together. I've got, which we already learned, and I've got a version of the upbeat style that we already learned. Here's the idea. You're playing a bass line in your left hand. Right? Now notice in my right hand, I'm not playing tight like this. I'm swinging it from the elbow as I was doing before. Right? And now when I just play the bass, I'm using all downstrokes. Now you notice one other thing, that I can hit all 6 strings, really smacking them, but only one note comes out. And that's in the left hand. That's your left hand's job, is to trim down the number of notes that you're hearing so that you only get the one bass note that you want to sound at any given time. All right, so when I play the E chord, I'm hearing the same sound that we heard originally. But when I play the first bass note at the 4th fret, what I'm doing is deliberately playing sloppy. I'm letting my left hand just lay all across the strings, which you're not supposed to do, right? Lay across the strings and deaden everything, so if I play it slowly, the only pressure that I'm putting down is with the tip of my 3rd finger. Next bass note, same thing. My index finger lays flat across the strings, except I'm only applying pressure with the tip. And then 3rd finger. Now notice my thumb's over the top. That's my insurance policy against the 6th string ringing out. And then I get on the 4th string, same thing. My index finger is pressing down the 4th string and laying across everything else. Right? So that takes a little time. All right, now the other half of that is the upstroke. So what I do is hit the bass note and then hit the open top 2 strings. But I'm not being so picky about the top 2. I'm just kind of coming up with the pick. So I hit all 6 on the way down and then hit them all on the way up. And the fact is, you hear the upstroke so briefly that it really doesn't matter if you've got a couple extra notes ringing out there. So it sounds like this when you put them together slowly. Now when you get to the 5 chord, it's going to sound like this. When you play it slowly, it sounds like a bunch of garbage cans rolling down the street, but pick up the tempo, it sounds great. Okay, we're going to play it with the rhythm track now, and I'll show you how it goes. Now one more style of rhythm playing, we'll put it all together. This is another style that's been around for a long time. T-Bone Walker was an excellent comper in this style. Think of it as being a one-man horn section. Here's one I'm going to play right here. This is an E dominant 9 chord, another one that maybe a lot of people don't play, but once you learn it, I think you'll use it a lot. Right? Put the E in the bass and you can hear the tonality. Okay? And then for a 4 chord, we'll use A9 at the 12th fret. We've already learned this shape. And for a 5 chord, B at the 14th fret. Okay? All right, in this section, we're going to talk about the fun stuff. Let's face it, licks, right? Especially lick in E. Now, as a rock guitar player, I started out playing an E. I always thought E was like home. You know, I mean, it's the most fun key to play in because you get to play all up and down the neck. So I'm going to show you some licks in E, and then we're going to talk about the real heart of how to make a blues solo work, which is how do you get from E to A, and from E to B, and from B to A, and all the other stuff. In other words, think about chords a little bit more. Now, most rock guitar players grow up and become very strong in scales. And so naturally, when you think of a new style of music, you start thinking about, well, what scale do you play? Well, in blues, it's pretty straight up. You know, it's the blues scale. Not much to say about that. Key of E, if I'm playing in open position, I would play this scale right here. Now, of course, scales are only part of the picture, but let's start out with the blues scale because, like anything else that has become a system, it works. Now, it only works up to a point, but it does a lot with a little bit. So if you know that particular scale pattern, you can cover a lot of ground. Here's a lick built out of the blues scale, for instance. All right, all in open position. Let me play that slowly for you. Now, like any blues type phrase, a little bit more than meets the ear. If you just looked at the notes on the page or even watched me play it, you might say, well, okay, G. Right? But there's that little extra, it's that little half bend. Now, part of the way that I phrase when I think about what to play is knowing the relationship of the notes of the scale to the chord. I'm playing over an E chord, right? And I know that an E chord, like any other major chords, made up of 3 notes: the root, the third, and the fifth. Right? So I look at that note and I think of its relationship to E. Well, what is it? What's the minor third? Now, when you hear blues players play the minor third, almost all the time, they don't just play the minor third, they actually play a note that's halfway between the minor third and the major third, and it sounds like this. Right? Now, it's something you don't even really notice, but if you don't do it, it doesn't sound right. All right, so that's the first thing I'm doing, is bending that note, not even a half step, but half a half step. And then I'm doing a pull off. That's a very common move right there. It's a hammer on, and then a double pull off, and then landing on the E. All right, now folding my second finger over there, going back and forth, that's another common move. So actually this lick incorporates a lot of the typical little technical things you run into in blues. Once again, up to speed. All right. Let me show you another lick in open position using the blues scale. It goes from high to low. Here's how it goes. Woo! Always got to end it with that. All right. Makes it sound impressive. All right, now the way that lick works starts with a typical move, sliding up from 2nd to 4th string, and then using the open E string on top. All right, that's taking advantage of the open strings, of course. Typical move in blues is to pick the note and then slide it. Gives a little bit more something, a little zing. All right, now there, I fold my second finger over, hammer on that E, or not the E, but the G sharp, the third of the E chord. And now, kind of take an odd root down to the low end. Right? That's using all the notes of the blues scale right there, from the open A, right, up to the B. Tweak that note a little bit, and then land on the E again. Okay. Here's another phrase. This is something I kind of made up out of some other people's licks, as most people do. You know, you hear somebody play it and you twist it around and make it your own. Sounds like this. Right? Now, what's different about that is I don't start in open position. I start with my index finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string and pull off, and then 2nd string, a double pull off from 5th to 3rd to open string. and then land on the third string at the fourth fret, the same note that I just played. So I double it, and then pull off again, and now move my hand into the open position. Alright, so, and land on the 7th degree of the chord. Alright. Okay, here's another phrase. Now this is one that I use that almost requires the use of the pick and the fingers in the right hand. Very important to get them both because I'm going to jump position a lot. Let me show it to you first. Right, now what I did there slowly so you can hear it. Right? Here's a shot of my right hand so you can see how I'm using the combination of pick and fingers. I'll start with the pick. Pick the low string, second finger, third finger, low string again, second finger to pick the high note. I'll pick second finger. So. Now, if you want to move up the neck, we all know about the 12th position, and you could actually take these licks that I just showed you and translate them into 12th position. For instance, let's see, let me pick one of the ones. Right? Almost the same. I changed it slightly, but almost the identical lick. So you could take that same phrase and move it up, and every lick that you know down here, you can play up here. All right. Now, you probably already know a bunch of licks up in 12th position, so I don't need to push that too much. But one area that sometimes you need a little help in is how to connect the high and the low. Okay, the first place to go is 7th position. Now, what we're doing here is playing off of familiar chord shapes. The open E chord, E bar chord, and of course here's E right in the middle. So when you construct a lick, you're building it really, whether you know it or not, off the shape of a chord. That's what makes it sound good. All right. So if I play in 7th position, I've got my blues scale, which is right, or descending. Right. Now those are the available notes. Like any scale, you don't play them all in a row, but that's what's there. Now I could make up some licks out of that scale pattern too. Let me show you one. Okay, now I did shift position there in order to get down to the low notes, and I'll show you how I did that. See, I'm playing out of that. So there's one phrase. Now, other typical phrases, you can make up a million of them once you get rolling, but right? Now there what I'm doing, a real common sound, is to play two strings at once, E and G, and bend that G slightly. So I get my second finger on the G. I don't bend the B, but right? And then basically I'm just messing around the blues scale for the rest of it, right? So, right, just playing around the blues scale in 7th position, all right? Now what I'd like to do is play along with the rhythm track, and I'm going to play a solo first in open position, and then I'm going to start in open position, work my way up to 7th position, and wind up in 12th position. In other words, build the solo over the period of 2 choruses so that I start low and high. Now, what I'd like to talk about next is the other scale. You know, when you talk about blues, there's basically two scales that people use all the time. The blues scale, and then the other one is the major pentatonic. A major pentatonic, as the name implies, is kind of like a major scale, but you leave out the notes that sound real sweet, like the major seventh. And what you're left with is this. I'll play it down in the open position for you, and then I'll show you the typical shape, of course, that everybody uses. That's the sound of the major pentatonic. Now here's a pattern that almost everybody uses. Start with the 12th position and play the blues scale. Right? Now take that shape, move your hand down 3 frets to 9th position, play exactly the same scale. Now the only thing is, instead of landing on this note, which was the root, you're going to land on this note. This is the root now. Right? So. Other than that, you can almost play the same exact licks, right? So, right? So the same phrases I would have played up here, I can move down 3 frets, and I can play them down here, right? Now, what advantage do you get from using that other scale? What's a different color? The blues scale sounds kind of nasty. It's got the minor third, the minor seventh, the flat 5, kind of dissonant tones. The major pentatonic scale sounds a lot sweeter. And as I'll show you in a minute, there are a couple of famous blues players. Each one kind of works out of a different scale, and their styles are different for that reason. So what I'll do in just a second here is roll tape, and we're going to play the same rhythm track, and I'm going to play over that rhythm track using the major pentatonic scale on the 1 chord, and then when the chord progression goes to the 4 chord, I'll use the minor pentatonic scale, not changing key, but using the same key. So E major pentatonic on the 1 chord, and then E minor pentatonic on the 4 chord and the 5 chord. And you'll see quite a difference in sound. All right, now I mentioned 2 well-known blues players that use those scales in different ways. 2 guys I'm thinking of are B.B. King and Albert King. Now, they taught me a new position. I, probably like you, felt most comfortable keeping either open, 7th fret, or 12th fret. But when I listened to Albert King carefully, I found the only way I could get that sound was to actually play out of 5th position. That's a really alien position for most guitar players, because you don't see a comfortable spot there to use your index finger. But we're only going to play a couple of notes here. Right now, what I'm going to do is, in order to play the Albert King style, I'm going to put my index finger on E, 2nd string at the 5th fret. Right? Now what he does, he's a big guy, right? And when he wants to play high notes, he doesn't move up the neck, he bends to him. He just rings that guitar's neck until he gets up there. So, right? So you gotta put some muscle behind those notes, and what I'm doing is bending from the 8th fret on the 2nd string up to the equivalent of the 12th fret. That's 2 whole steps. Right? And then trying to hit every note in between at different times. So, right? Now, you can play out of just those 2 notes, index finger and 3rd finger. Now maybe throw in one other one. With your 2nd finger playing the 3rd string at the 7th fret. And I'll guarantee you can sound like Albert King in about a minute and a half. Now, B.B. King, on the other hand, he's a little bit more uptown, a little bit slicker, more sophisticated kind of sound. He'll sit in that same position, but instead of emphasizing the minor tones, you'll emphasize the major tone. So index finger, third finger off the 7th fret, bend it up a whole step, and you get the major third. And then use your second finger on the 3rd string. And that's all you need, right there. Just that little spot. Now I'm going to play over the tape one more time. And first time I'm going to play in the B.B. King style, and the second time I'll play in the Albert King style. And check out closely how my hand stays in that one position. The fingers never leave the hand. It's very important. All right, so we're going to roll tape here, and we'll see what it sounds like. You know, the way blues players have learned to play from each other down through the years, and it continues, is by imitation. You could write out a whole bunch of licks. There are a lot of books on the market to show you a lot of licks. It's one of the hardest things in the world to read. Trying to read blues is like trying to read Old English or something. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You don't get the feel of it, the phrasing. So what I would like to do is just play some stuff for you, and we'll learn it right here on the spot. I'm going to play a little phrase, a 4-beat phrase, and you're going to imitate it. You're going to come right back at me. And if you hear something you like and you want to hear it again, roll the tape back. The camera's right up on my hands, and you can see what I'm doing pretty well. So this will show you a lot of stuff about phrasing, the little bite-sized chunks of phrases that you then put together to make longer lines. And pretty much by the time we get through with this little section here, you're going to know as much about how I play as I could tell you in another 6 or 7 reels. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. Next thing I want to talk to you about is taking what we've already picked up. We've got our two scales. Now, rock players think in scales, but when you talk about blues, you really have to think more about the chords. So let's take our two scales and figure out how they can fit together to create a chord concept. All right, we learned our minor pentatonic or blues scale and major pentatonic. Now, when you ask a blues player, you know, some 60-year-old guy, what do you think about when you play? The last thing they're going to tell you is about chord tones or scale patterns and stuff, because they pick it up over the years and it becomes a natural thing. It's like, you know, what do you think about when you walk? So what I'm going to talk about here is something that you discuss when you're trying to communicate with somebody, but it's something that to make it really work, you have to just live with it for a while and absorb it, and it does take time. All right, the concept is this. Let's say we're playing in the key of A. Now, when I'm playing over an A chord, of course I know what the scales are. We just talked about them. But how do you know where to land? Well, we talked about this a little earlier. Chord tones. I look at the notes of an A chord, and right, those are the notes of an A dominant seventh chord. So when I play a lick, I look at any one of those notes and I say those are all strong notes. They're going to sound good. So I can play a lick and end anywhere. There's the root. There's the third. There's the fifth. And there's the seventh, right? Now, you could almost say that it doesn't matter what you play as long as you end on a strong note. Well, that's not quite true, but that's got a lot to do with it. So knowing where your strong notes are is very important. Now, we've played over an A chord, and we've come up with a lot of strong phrases. What happens when you go to D? Well, what a lot of players will do is shift position. They'll say, well, A is 5th position, D is 10th position, for instance. Well, you sound a lot better if you can figure out how to play in one position and still reflect the sound of the chord. So when I go from A to D, it's kind of like the whole picture changes. Instead of seeing the notes of the A chord as being strong, I see the notes of the D chord. Now I can play the same scale and aim for the notes that belong to that D chord, especially the root. All right? Same thing on the E chord. There's an E dominant 7th chord in 5th position. And there's the root of the E chord, right? Or there's the third of the E chord. In other words, being aware, almost like there's a little ghost shape of that chord there all the time. And when I'm playing, I'm saying, where are the strong notes? What note do I want to land on? I use the blues scale as the foundation, and then I use the chord tones to help me make it sound strong. Okay? Now, in addition to that, when you're playing over a dominant chord, like we've been using, talked about 9th chords and 13th chords. Those chords contain notes that are not in the ordinary blues scale, so I can add those notes in too. Right? And instead of thinking of them as major pentatonic scale, I say, well, that's a chord tone. That's the 13th. Right? Or there's the 9th. Right? So I'm thinking about the chord tones and less about the scales, and as I go along, I find that that makes me a stronger player. Now we're going to play over that same rhythm track one more time, and what I'm going to do this time is I'm really going to play off of each chord. So I'll play a couple of them, and I'll point out through the way that I'm playing how I'm getting from chord to chord. There's the root, third, root of the D chord, root, 7th, 5th of the 5 chord, root. Part of the blues style that a lot of people take for granted is some of the details like intros, endings, turnarounds, those kind of things. You have to, of course, understand how those work, or you get hung out to dry when all of a sudden the band stops and you got a bar to fill and you're looking around saying, who, me? Now, the typical intros, there's two of them, really. A band will call off a blues, they'll say blues in A, okay? And the guy who's leading the song will say, take it from the 5. Okay, now what does that mean? That means take it from the last 4 bars of the 12-bar progression. If we're playing in the key of A again, it would be taking it from the E chord. You play E, D, and then the last 2 bars. And now you actually start the 12-bar on the 1 chord. So you're playing a 4-bar introduction there. Now the last 2 bars of any blues progression are called the turnaround. And I guess the term comes from the feeling that you're getting to the end, you're going to turn around and go back and start it all over again. Another typical intro is to say take it from the turnaround, which means play the last 2 bars, which would be like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. And then start the 12 bar there. Now the progressions that we've been playing over have used both styles of turnarounds at various times, and if you go back and listen, you'll hear each one happening. How about endings? Well, typically you get to the end of a blues, they'll stop in one of 2 places. They'll either stop on the 4 chord or the 1 chord. So you get to the end, it might go like this: 5 chord, 4 chord, and bop. And there's a little hole there, and you play a lick. So it'd be like 5, 4, and then. And of course, remember, always end on the 1 chord. I mentioned that earlier. Right? The other typical stopping place is on the 4 chord. You go 5, and then play the turnaround to end it. Either case, you have a 1-bar hole, and you got to play a lick in that hole. Now, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. You're just keeping the time going. Play something simple, something from the heart, and it'll work fine. Okay? So as you listen to these progressions, you'll hear both of those types of beginnings and endings. And the way I deal with them is just to play the licks I'm already playing and just keep them going and not get startled because the band stopped. Okay? Now, a word I've mentioned several times: turnaround. Very important. At the end of each blues progression, you got that 2-bar phrase. Now, what the phrase really is it's implying this. It's implying 1 chord, 4 chord, 1, and 5. 2 beats of each one. Okay? So you'll hear 2 types of turnaround phrases. One type of phrase is pre-arranged, and I'll show you a few of those. And the other type is simply a lick, just playing any old lick like you already play and landing on the root of the 5 chord, because that's the last one. Now, all the stuff I've been playing up to this point, I've been pretty much playing the second type of turnaround. But the first type, there's a little system that you can use, real easy. Key of A, okay, you want to play a turnaround. You'll find that the notes move in one of 2 directions. Starting on the 5th, right, key of A, the 5th is E, right? I go up in half steps: E, F, F sharp, G, and land on G, the flat 7th. Or I can go the other way. Right? Now what that sounds like is this. Here's the turnaround. And then go to the 5 chord, assuming we're going to keep going through the tune. Now that sounds a little bit bare, not much happening. So how do I fatten that up? Well, I'm going to stick in the root on the top, and I'll go. So instead of still in that same position and just walking down those same notes. Okay, so 5, 4, and then 1. Right? Now, the other set of notes is going from 5 again, but this time down to the 3rd, the major 3rd in the key of A, C sharp. Right, so 5 chord, 4 chord, right? That's one you probably heard because a lot of people use that. You can also go the other way. Okay? Now where it gets interesting is when you start to take those ideas and screw around with them a little bit. For instance, here's one that was used by Robert Johnson, and then Eric Clapton picked up on it and became a real standard turnaround. That's playing what we already played, but moving the notes down an octave. So I'm playing G down here on the 4th string at the 5th fret, keeping the A on top. Right? So it's the same phrase down an octave. Now once again, I'll use my fingers in my right hand to help me pick that, but you don't have to do that. You can use the pick. Okay? Another typical turnaround would be to combine those notes on the 4th string with the notes on the 2nd string. So you get this. Or coming back up. Right? Or to make it really fancy, play the note on top, the A, and then move the notes up underneath. Now that requires the use of some fingers in the right hand because you have to pick the lowest note and then use your 2nd and 3rd fingers to pluck the higher notes. Okay, that's a typical turnaround too, used by a lot of piano players, for instance. All right. Now, real common turnaround that you might have heard. All right. Now that's starting in the 9th position. Both notes at the 9th fret, 3rd and 1st strings, down a fret, down another fret, and then land with your 2nd finger on the 6th fret of the 3rd string, 1st finger on the 5th fret of the 1st string, 3rd string rather, and 1st string. Okay? Now, you hear some players play more elaborate versions, more melodic versions of those kind of turnarounds. For instance, right? All that is taking the one we just learned and sticking a little melody in between the notes that we're playing. Okay? So slowly you've got the first 2 notes, 8th fret, 10th fret, and then 7th fret, 10th fret, right? And land, of course, on that 1 chord. Okay? Here's one that I made up. I kind of like it. It's one of my personal favorites. Right? Now that's kind of tricky, but what I'm doing is playing a typical little phrase, right? Which is the 5th, going down to the 3rd, the 7th, going down to the 5th, put them together, and then play a little melody on top. That's kind of complicated to show you, but you'll see that appear on the bottom of the screen, and you can figure the notes out just by watching it and listening to it a few times. Okay? So that's basically the story on turnaround. So if you know how to start the tune, end the tune, and play all the turnarounds, playing the solo is the easy part. Right? You just got to know a couple of licks, play a strong lick at the beginning, play a little variation, and then play the turnaround. You're done. You know, compared to blues players, a lot of rock guitar players are sissies when it comes to keys. Everybody wants to play an E and A, and then you say G, and oh man, I don't know if I know any licks in G. I'm going to put something on you right now that'll help you get over that. I'm going to play a progression for you that takes you through every single key on the guitar. And what that's going to force you to do, obviously, is to think in every key. We're going to play 4 bars on each one. And then I want to put one extra weight on your shoulders. And that's to be able to play all 12 keys without moving more than 1 fret in any direction. That's a tall order. I'm kind of scared of doing that myself, actually, if you want to know the truth. But I tell you what I'd like to do is I'm going to play through it one time, and I want you to kind of follow along with me and see how I'm playing it. Now, here's key to being able to do this. You have to know 5 shapes of every chord. All right, so for instance, I play an A chord in 5th position. We know that one very well. Suppose I want to play a B chord and not move up to the 7th fret, but stay in that same position. There's a piece of a B chord right there. My index finger is playing right across the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. I find the root down here. Might be a shape that you're not that familiar with, but it's a very useful one. Okay? And suppose I want to play a D chord. Well, there's a D chord right there. That's another shape. What about an F chord? We think, oh, well, see, F is up there or down here. But no, there's an F right here. Right? This is based on the same shape as you'd play if you played an open C chord down here in open position. And move your hand up the neck. Right, I'm a little bit out of tune there. Right? And then suppose, let's see, what's left? Suppose you wanted to play a G chord, but instead of moving down to the third position, you could play right there. That's kind of like an open D chord. Moved up the neck with the root right there. Now, if you've never thought about the other chords, we got our two basic bar chords off the 6th and 5th strings. If you haven't thought about the other ones, it's very difficult to suddenly just do that on the spot. But that's something to work towards, and being able to do that gives you freedom on the neck. You can play any key anywhere on the neck. That's an excellent exercise, so I highly recommend it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play over this progression one time. Well, I guess it's that time to say goodbye. I hope I haven't loaded your brain down with too many different concepts, because after all, let's face it, blues is a style of music. It's supposed to be simple and fun to play, and what I'm trying to put on you is something that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it didn't mean a thing to me, really. It's something that I've thought about a lot over the years, and in trying to pass it on to you in the terms that I'm using, it may make it sound like, oh, this is such a technical thing to do. But what I'm really after is not to make you think real hard while you play blues, but make you aware that there is a lot that goes on in blues. It's a simple style, but to make it sound good, you have to take a lot of care in choosing the notes that you play. And to choose those notes, you have to have a system. You have to know what you're after. And in the modern world, things happen awful quick. We're all trying to get somewhere in a hurry. And so the traditional method of learning blues, sitting down with a record and listening to the thing 500 times in a row and then picking out another one doing the same thing, sooner or later you got to do that. But you can take a few shortcuts and be aware when you listen what's going on behind the scenes. And I hope I've helped illuminate that for you. So we're going to play a little bit more on the way out, and I just want to tell you it's been a lot of fun, and I hope you have a lot of fun with this too, and I'll see you the next time.